NCBM 0324, Section 1.5, Basics of Factoring Polynomials, Part 1. Another important concept in math is the idea of factoring. Now we can factor numbers, which we'll do in a little bit, but more importantly, we're going to learn how to factor polynomials. So what is a polynomial? Well, a polynomial is an expression of more than two algebraic terms, so algebraic terms, having different powers of the same variables, being either added or subtracted, and some combination of the two. So here are some examples. All of these listed are considered polynomials. You'll notice the ones in this first row, they all have x as a variable in them, some powers of x. So the first one has x to the first plus 5. There's my addition operation. I could have a square, I could have negative coefficients, I could have different powers. Over here we have a power of 3, but these are all considered polynomial expressions. We could also introduce other variables, like the couple on the bottom row here. We have powers of x's and powers of y's, but they're all being combined with these additions and subtractions here. So what can we do then with our polynomials? Well, that's where the factoring comes in. Sometimes leaving polynomials in this more expanded way is the way we want to work some problems, but more often than not, factoring those polynomials are going to make them a little bit more manageable. We can do and find more interesting and valuable characteristics of the polynomial if it's in factored form. So what is factoring? Well, we're going to describe that as the process of writing a polynomial as a product. And we're going to call this factoring. And if you're familiar with factoring, you know that there are a lot of different ways of factoring. And in this section, we're going to look at the very basic ways. You'll see additional methods later on in the course. But not all polynomials are able to be factored. Sometimes a polynomial, if it's completely factored down, or when we have finished the process of factoring, each of those factors is called prime. So we're no longer able to write those pieces as any more products. It's gone as far as we possibly could. Now to start this though, before we jump into the polynomial situation, let's think about the basic of just numbers. How do we factor numbers? Well, to factor a number means to really the same thing, break the number into a product of two numbers. So that's the idea. We're taking these larger values in the number case, and we're writing as the multiplication of two smaller values that gives me that bigger number. For example, the numbers 2 and 3 are factors of 6 because 2 times 3 gives me 6. Then the question may become, are there any other factors of that value? So when we factor something down completely, we want to look at all those possibilities. So let's look at example 1. We want to find all the factors of 18. So looking at 18, right, it's a pretty nice number. I know the numbers 1 and 18, when I multiply them together, that gives me 18, right? So there's a couple of factors. I can also do 2 times 9. That'll give me 18 when I multiply. And then what else do we have? We have 3 times 6 also gives me 18. What about 4? Does 4 go into 18? Is 4 a factor of 18? Not quite. What about 6? I'm sorry, 5? No, it's not a multiple of 5. And then 6 we already have listed down. So we have our factors. There are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. Now you may notice how I wrote my factors down, and this is just one of the habits that I have gotten into, but it may help you. When I'm listing my factors, I like to start with the number itself and the number 1, right? Start with the outside. We know 1 times that number is going to give me that value. So I like to start in that way and kind of work my way in the middle. Then I ask myself, okay, does 2 go in there? What does that match with? Does 3? And eventually you'll have all the factors listed. They'll kind of meet up in the middle. So that's one strategy you can use. There are others out there. Take a look, see what works best for you. Let's try it again on number 2, though. You want to find all the factors of 24. So another nice number, another even number, in fact, right? It's a multiple of 2. So I know my factors. I can start with 1 and 24. 1 times 24 gives me 24. 2 and 12 gives me 24. I know that. 3 and 8 give me 24. 4, I think 4 goes in there. Yep, 4 times 6 gives me 24. What about 5? Nope, 5 does not go into 24. 6 does, but I'm starting to close the loop from the other side. So I know this is my complete list. So factors, we're trying to break down these items that we're factoring into products that we're multiplying down.